So I want to make a game about boss battles, kind of like Cuphead, but with a desert aesthetic of Journey, and with a 3D fighting style of Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. In other words, a 3D boss bash with stylized graphics. Hey guys, I'm XyloBeta, a high school student and indie game developer. I've made a handful of games over the past few months, learning more about Unity and game development, programming, game design, and 3D art. But now I want to try a new challenge. Make a fully fledged indie game, my first commercial video game. So, of course, the first thing you do when starting a game about boss fighting is make a sick water shader. I used Unity's shader graph and used some scrolling noise textures with edge highlights to make— Okay, I get it, that's not what you're supposed to do first. Obviously, since this is a boss fighting game based in the desert, making a water shader is a stupid idea and shouldn't be my first priority. So instead, the first thing you should do is make a sick sand shader. This only took a few minutes and I totally didn't spend 10 hours messing around with the Unity shader graph. To be fair though, one of the goals of this game is to have good visuals, since my previous games didn't have the world's best graphics.
Yay!
Every minute spent on graphics is going to help my game out in the long run. I used a wave texture for the bumps along the sand, a random noise texture for the gritty texture, and another noise texture but larger, as a scrolling texture over the top of it to look like wind-blowing sand. Additionally, you can customize the color, so I'll have a lot of flexibility when making levels in the future. Okay, time to make a character or something. I used the Blender application to create and rig a character. It took a few tries to get it right, since I'm pretty bad at making people look proportionate. I decided that I did not want to go for a realistic face because that's absolutely terrifying. I kept with the stylized and slightly cartoonish dimension for the character. Next, I gave it a paint job, and ended up with a character looking like this. I gave it some bones to move around, and I was ready to put it in the game. A lot of people say that getting your movement polished, intuitive, and overall is the top priority when making a fighting game. After some coding, and slapping together a test level, I ended up with some early movement. For right now, it's WASD to move, shift to run, and space to jump. The movement is camera relative, which is basically a must for any third-person game. It's nothing special, but I'm proud of it. Right now the camera is a little finicky when you move it around too much, so that's definitely a work in progress. A common problem when programming a character going down slopes is that they bounce down the slope, since they move forward into the air and then gravity happens, but not in the same frame. In real life, people don't walk perfectly forward when going down a slope, they move along with it. I had to figure out a way for the player to stick to slopes as they move, so they don't end up with a super jittery and uncomfortable experience. I ended up making the character instantly move down the distance to the ground each frame, so that the player looks like they're moving along the slope while still moving at the same speed. I don't want to have my character T-posing everywhere, since it might scare the children. I mean, look at that, that's just intimidating, menacing. He stares with uncaring eyes. So that means I need to make some animations. But first, I had to figure out this thing called inverse kinematics, which apparently makes animating legs a lot easier. What the actual heck is inverse kinematics? Well, I looked it up and I got this.
Now, if you don't know what inverse kinematics are, it's basically just kinematics, but inverse.
Nice. But seriously, forward kinematics is where you bend each individual bone to get them to rotate towards an object. Whereas inverse kinematics is where you pick a location and the bones will bend towards that. Capiche? Yeah, I'm not sure I completely get it either, but hey, it did make the running animations a lot easier to make. So after that, I made a running animation, sprinting animation, jumping animations, and an idle animation. Plopped them into the Unity game with some coding and some animation controller finesse, and voila, we are done. Running and jumping around is already pretty fun, just with animations and a simple character controller, so I'm excited where this game will go. Wait, wasn't this game supposed to be about boss battles? Well, yes, but actually, cape. By using Unity's cloth system, I was able to make a cape for this character. Why a cape? Because it's hecking awesome. Still kinda glitchy though, I can't figure out what's going on. I spent way too much time trying to get this thing to work, and it's still not that good. The arms clip through, but when I try to change that, this happens. After spending a few days on it, that's when I remembered something. Wait, wasn't this game supposed to be about boss battles? Okay, fine, I get it. I'll make a sword or something. I was originally planning on giving the character a two-ended sword, but that was a little weird to animate with, so I ended up with a single-bladed scimitar instead. I'm planning on having this weapon be able to morph into various different kinds, like a bow or dual daggers, but while still keeping the same handle. I added some 6 sword animation combo moves. Swing right, swing left, swing down. Wow, I actually feel cool for once. I also tried to have him swing while running. It doesn't look very great yet, but I'm gonna keep working on that. The reason it doesn't look so good is that I tried to just plop the sword attack on the torso and leave the legs as is, but it results in some violent head shaking. Definitely a work in progress. Now that we have a sword and some cool animations, it's time for the player to actually hit something. I decided to make a test dummy. After fiddling around in Blender for a while, I got the model done. I added a derpy paint job to it and gave it a little wobbly animation. Honestly, the wobble makes it so satisfying to just beat the heck out of it. It's got the groundwork for a future enemy class, or maybe even a boss class. I'm thinking of having a few levels littered with just enemies, but most levels with a single boss with multiple phases. Think Cuphead. So that's my game so far. Of course, I haven't gotten to any boss battles yet, but the core parts of the game have been implemented, and I'm super excited to keep going with it. This is definitely teaching me a lot about art, but it's teaching me about project management and everything else as well. Hey, if you want to keep up with the project, make sure to join my Discord server. The link's in the description below. You can chat about game development, music, programming, art, and advertise your own game dev projects. Or you can just hang out and share memes. That's good with me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Press the magic red button and the bell because that would make me so happy and help me beat the YouTube algorithm once and for all. Thanks y'all. Remember, life's a game. Have fun with it.